Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Boring Show solo edition. We are normally Flutter Boring Show is a development show where two people sit in front of the computer and build something. It's generally we try to make it so that the topics that we talk about are boring in terms of they are not something like cool, like, oh, let's build a new Hello World app. But it's mostly things like refactoring and how do I deal with state management and databases and stuff like this. So if this is the first boring show that you're looking at, that's what it's about. And it's also about, generally, it's about pair programming, basically. So normally I would have another person next to me and we would do it together. But we have to make do with what we have. So this boring show is solo, which means it's going to be a little bit more boring than usual. And I'm pretty sure there's going to be awkward silence moments and stuff like this. So bear with me, please. I'm really bad at multitasking. I'm really bad at doing things and also explaining them at the same time. So it's going to be painful. Anyway, this episode is about a boring topic that I'm extremely passionate about, actually. And I don't get to talk about it too much, and that's logging. And I mean, I don't mean like chopping wood. I mean logging in the programmer sense, where you have some messages that you need to log and then maybe inspect, right? In Flutter. And this is inspired by a question by Michelle Feinstein. I hope that I'm not mispronouncing your name, who actually had a more advanced question that we'll get to by the end of this video, hopefully. But the basic question is, how do I log in Dart, right? What's the best package to use and stuff like that. And the easy, simple, and wrong answer is just use print. In every language, you can just use print, right? Let's do that now. So if I go to the command line and just like make the most basic program ever, so that would be hello Dart, I guess, and then that's like this is not the most basic, but print hello world. This is almost looks like a so Dart hello world. This will print to the console, right? So this will log things, and that's how unfortunately many people will do their logging. Because the cool thing about it is that it will work in any environment where you can run Dart. So if you run Dart in the command line, it will print to the command line. If you let's do, I mean, we could do Dart to native, right? That's the same thing, but I just like to do that. So hello world, it will print to the command line. If we do Dart to JS and do hello Dart, then this will can I wait? I think I have I have HTML here. So if I do, I'm over engineering this, but I want to say if I do simple HTTP server, I have this thing set up 000. I have an very simple HTML file that just basically takes the script that we just generated by using Dart2JS, and we are seeing hello world here, right? So that's cool. I don't know if that made sense, but that basically means the same program running on the web will print to the developer console.log in JavaScript. If you do this in Flutter on Android, it will log into the Android system log, and on iOS, the iOS system log. So that's the very easy way to put things put text messages somewhere in a log. But the downside of that is, well, there are many downsides. So in general, with logging, you want the messages to have more information than just simple text. You want to often have like when it happened, where did it happen, and sometimes tech traces and stuff like this, right? So this doesn't really scale well. And the second problem is, if you do, like, if everyone does this, if you use like a plugin or package in Dart, and that plugin or package prints to the console, or logs its things into the console, then you get a lot of irrelevant, for you, they're irrelevant messages in the console that it's just not fun to search through those to see where your things are going wrong or right, hopefully. So and also, and of course there's also the performance issue. Like, even simple things, if you're logging a lot, it's obviously not taking too many resources, but imagine like 1,000 log messages per second, or even per frame. All these messages need to be constructed. There needs to be like some string that needs to be constructed, and then the different parts of the string need to be garbage collected. And so you don't want to log everything. But on the other hand, sometimes you need to, because you're debugging something important, right? So that's why we have logging, different logging packages. And if we look at my screen now, I'm in PubDev, and if I search for logging, I will find a bunch of things, and some of them are really, really cool. I will, in this episode, I will just use the logging library that comes kind of from the Dart team, which is package :logging. And as you can see, it's in 0.11.4 version, but that's a historical thing that is just going on for ages. It is something that is used in production. You shouldn't be afraid to use it. Normally I would say, hey, like, it's 0.11, don't use it in production. In this particular case, there are reasons, beyond technical reasons, why this is still staying in the 0.x range. Well, I mean, they are still technical reasons, but they're not the reason that you think. They are not the reason that this package is somehow experimental or anything like that. It's just that people are trying to not break too much stuff, I guess. Anyway, so I'll be looking at this package, not because it's the best logging package there is in Dart. I'm pretty sure there are better ones, but this is kind of the basic, lowest level thing that you can have. And this is also probably the one that you'll find in most packages if there's ever any logging going on. And so it's kind of this underlying thing, standard thing almost. So you can be sure that if you use it, others can continue with your work, or they can take your package and actually listen to the log messages in your package and that kind of stuff. So this is why I'm choosing this. I'm not saying this is the best. All right. So what I want to do today is look at the Hacker News app. We have an app that we've been working on for 2 years now, I think, on and off in the Boring Show, where we just like sit down and work on one specific little feature of a Hacker News reader app. And right, and we're very original. And so this app has a bunch of going on, and I'm sometimes surprised that it still works, but that's a good way to start thinking about, okay, so we should be probably logging stuff so that we can debug better. And so that's what I'll do today. I'll just like take one part of the Hacker News app, and I will do I will sprinkle logging messages through it, and I will try to show you how that would be done. Another thing before, I know that I should be already coding, and I don't know how much time I am into this, but the cool thing about having logs is that are not just printed to a console somewhere, is that you can actually maybe have a rolling list of log messages, like the last 100 or last 50 log messages that happened in your app. And then when your app crashes, which never happens, right? Then, or there's something wrong with, like, for example, someone complains that, the app looks weird. You can ask them, hey, can we provide the logs as well? And if yes, then you can actually download the logs, the last 50 log messages. And that is super, super valuable when you're debugging something, because now you can look in the log and be like, so that's good thing is to log all user interactions. So you can be like, oh, the person clicked here and then, half a second later tapped something else, which at this point shouldn't be even possible to do. Oh, now I understand. This is because at some, there's some weird thing where we are actually showing something that we shouldn't. It's super valuable to be able to go through that kind of almost like a walkthrough of what happened just before the crash or the bug or whatever appeared. Cool. Can we start coding, please? Yes, we can. So this is the Hacker News app, and I should be running it, and I'm not. So while it's debugging, if you're new to the program, as I said, there's a bunch of things happening, but basically it's there's Hacker News notifier. This is our kind of proxy to the Hacker News API. So the actual UI doesn't need to know much about how the Hacker News API looks like. It can just ask the Hacker News notifier, hey, like, are there new things that I should be showing? What about this? And stuff like that, right? So this is the Hacker News app running. It has top stories and news stories. And you can see here it's like waiting for new stuff, and you can open up and close things. Oh, and we have settings and stuff that are half implemented and hilariously buggy. So let's not go there. Again, this is an app that is mostly used for showing how you would start implementing things. And we only had, I think, 2 refactoring episodes. We should have more. All right. So why was I talking about the Hacker News notifier? Because this is one of the things where lots of things happen. So it should make sense to log stuff there, right? So I will only probably, in the hour that I have, I will only do the Hacker News notifier piece in terms of logging. And then I will leave it as an exercise to the audience to do the rest, or maybe I'll do the rest afterwards or something like this. Anyway, first things first, I need to depend on the logging. So I need to do basically this, dependencies logging. I will do that here, I guess. I don't know if I want to go into that, but one way, if you're kind of like, oh, this will, Filip's told me that this is it's production quality and I don't need to really worry about it that much, and it's probably sooner or later go to 1.0, then you can do something like this, where this is basically saying, I think, Okay, I'm just reading the hint here, which is fine. This is saying I think there's not going to be anything breaking until 2.0. It's just basically the team will at some point decide to go to 1.0 without any major breaking changes, which is again something that I cannot promise, but I would expect that. And this is kind of future-proof because when that happens, your app will just get updated and you will not be you're very flexible there. But of course, this assumes that you kind of trust that the logging library will not break with 1.0. I don't know. Should I? Because if you do the regular stuff, the I don't know, what was it, 14.1 or something like this, then once logging goes into 15, then you're out of luck, because that's how semantic versioning works before 1.0. Anyway, I'm still talking. See, this is how I know that this is going to be a terrible episode. There is no, I was just looking, this should normally be alphabetically. I like to have my dependencies alphabetically sorted, but now I'll just stick to wherever I just put it. And because I see that there's no alphabetic ordering here, or is there? Was there at some point? Anyway, so packages get, right? And then let's go to HN API, which is our Hacker News. I think it's the Hacker News notifier. And now, how do I use this? So the README says it all. How do I log messages? Instead of just printing stuff, I need a logger, which is this. It's actually a singleton. Don't say anyone. Don't tell anyone. No, it's the root logger is a singleton, but the logger that you'll create will be identified by its name. This is which is this, and then you can just use this object to log.find and stuff like this, right? And then at any point in your app, you can get the singleton root logger, which kind of like that's there's a hierarchy to the loggers if you want to. By default, it's just like a root logger, and then everything else is a child of that root logger. So you can listen to the records coming to that root logger and then do whatever you want with them. But first, let's actually log things. So we have, oh man, where do I? Okay, so this is the first. This is when we create the Hacker News notifier, which normally is probably not needed to log, but let's do it. So we first need that object. That's very easy to do. I generally like to do like a static final log equals logger, and I call it the Hacker News notifier by the class where it is. This could definitely also be not in the class itself. It could be anywhere out there. You could even have like a singleton for your whole app, but that's not very helpful. The cool thing about having a logger of a name is that every log through this logger will now have that name in it, and it will be it will be easier for you to scan through your messages and find out, oh, this is coming from here and there, and so on and so forth. So I recommend something like this. If you, in this case, I could imagine just having like a stat. Oh, something like a final log is logger of, and let's say HN API for the whole file, and then in the file I could just use that. But granularity might be nicer here because we have some other classes here. So let's do this. Of course, you could try to stay dry and do not repeat yourself, and have things like, oh, I want to mix in for a class that just gives it a logger, and find out by runtime type what it is. Like, all of these things are possible. I generally, in this particular case, in the general case as well, I recommend being more explicit. It's just one line of code. It's very understandable what this is. There's no magic. There's no like width, and so I just keep it that way. But again, this is very much a matter of taste. So now we have this logger thing, and it's static final, so it will be there for like regardless of the actual objects of Hacker News Notifier. This is there just like kind of attached to the Hacker News Notifier as a static field, and so we can use it. So we can be like log fine constructor called. Now what's happening here? I am basically, instead of doing something like print, I'm only logging into the logger, and I'm saying this is a log of a level called fine. There are many different log levels, and basically I could also just do log and say log level of fine, and then the message, and that's exactly the same thing as above. So that's the same thing, but generally you don't do that, and instead you just do log like info or warning or severe, I think, and so on. And this is actually, let me show you the whole, right? So this is, there are levels that basically just mean I want to listen to either all of the logs or none of the logs, but the log levels that you will use as a person who is adding log messages is finest. These are like the lowest, like the most verbose, just lowest level log messages that you probably shouldn't ever need, but sometimes you do. So there's finest. I generally go with info is like the general case. If it's very chatty and very like it will print every frame, then I go with fine. And then on to the other direction, warning is more like something really is wrong and you should look at this. And obviously severe is probably something almost fatal. Shout is something like this as well, right? So and here you have them nicely. This is like the scale from finest to shout. Okay, so but we don't need to, let's go back. Yeah, so we're logging with a fine thing, and we could add more things like an error or stack trace, but in this case we're just saying that the constructor was called. And I can do another thing here where I'm like log, is this info or fine? Let's do it fine. I can write, oh man, I cannot write. Fine. First refresh called. First refresh of first tab called. Right? So now here we're kind of like trying to convey that, oh, we created this Hacker News API proxy or facade, and now we automatically call the refresh, which means basically loading the current new articles from Hacker News. And that's what it does. But sometimes it's really nice to see that in the log messages, because sometimes it's like, hey, where is that log message? That why didn't anyone? What happened with that? Or the opposite problem might be, hey, like, why are we first refreshing for 10 times in a row? That shouldn't happen, right? So looks stupid, but it's not. I think. All right. So that's that. That's basically all the behavior that we have here. We've created the tabs, which is this new story, stop stories, and then we scheduled the microtask to do the first kind of reload. Now, if we run the app from the beginning, you will see that there was 0 log messages. That's because we're logging, but we're not actually doing anything with the logs themselves. And so for that to happen, you need to listen, as we've shown before. This is how you could do it. So I'm back into the pub.dev logging, and here they say like, oh, here's a simple logging configuration that logs all messages via print, which is exactly what we don't want to do. But right now we're going to do it just so that you see it in the console, in the iOS console. So where was I? Oh, so in main, we can do this, right? We can say, I care about all the messages, which really, I should probably do that only in debug. And even that is, that could slow down debug if I was logging a lot. So I don't know. You can change the level at any time. This is just I think it's a setter. Yes. So at any time you can change the level of the logs to anything else. And then you listen to the records, which is a stream. On record is a stream of log record. And log record itself, so all the log record has the logger name, which is what we set up, the Hacker News notifier, the message, which is the message, the level, the error if there is one, there's time attached, there's sometimes stack trace attached, zone, we'll get to that hopefully, and object. Oh yeah, if there was a message that was not, you can pass things that are not text or strings to the logger, and then I don't know, show them. Like you could log an image. It's weird. And a sequence number, which is monotonic. So you know that a log message with a smaller number will go before the log message with a higher number. All right, so here this is very easy. Like it will just let's restart the app. See, so this logs fine. That's the log level name. It logs the time and then name. What's often I often do something like this. So record logger name. Let's see if that Hacker News notifier. You can play with how to actually print this out, but you know what I mean. So this says this is coming from here. It's a fine message. This is the time and so on. All right. Now, what was I gonna do? Huh. this is when, if this was a live stream, I would ask people to remind me what I was going to do. But anyway, so we did this and it's working. And we still have time. Oh, yes. So, okay, so we basically, like, this is all nice, but we're still printing to the console. That didn't really help us much, right? We have more information by default here, and that's nice, but it's still kind of lost. So what we could do is, if you use something like Sentry or anything that helps you get good crash reports and good feedbacks and stuff like this, you might want to always have a running logging, like running log, queue of log messages that you could attach to this. And I don't think I'm going to add it to the to this app because we don't have that yet, and maybe we should work on that. But instead, what I'm going to do is I am going to show you how how you could do it and then delete it immediately. What do you think about that? So we could have just a easy queue of log records. Imagine this is not in the main method of the Flutter app. It could be set up somewhere else, right? Okay, so that would be like logs, and queue is in dot collection. Logs is a queue of, is it just queue, right? So queue is nice because it gives you fast access to both the beginning and the end of a list, and it's optimized for adding stuff at one end or the other end and removing stuff from the other end or the first end, right? So like if you had a list, you would have to add stuff, and then so list is not optimized for things like this. Queue is. I don't know why. Okay, so instead of printing, I could be like logs at last would be the record, and then while logs length is more than some kind of max length, let's say 100, then logs remove first. That's it, right? So here what happens here is where every time anyone anywhere in our app or even a package that uses logging logs a message that passes the level. So in this case, any message, by default, this is fine. So this is info. Anyway, anytime this happens, we add it to a queue, and then just in case there's more than 100 in the queue, we will remove the first ones, which means the kind of the oldest logs from the queue. So we never have more than 100 logs. Right? So that would be something that could happen. In our case, I'm gonna remove this as well, so we only log info and above, as it says here. It said it somewhere. Oh, it says here, right? Yeah, this defaults to info, which is what I want. So I'm gonna remove that. This means that we will not see the fine messages because fine is lower in the hierarchy than info. And I will remove all that and this. And I kind of hate the this. So level name logger name, record time. This might look a little bit better. I don't know. Let's see. Oh, and of course, now if I restart, there's going to be no logs because the fine logs that we had before didn't make it. Just my luck. I just want to see, okay, logger root level is level fine. And restart. See, this might look a little bit better. I don't know. You have to play with the formatting of the logs. But as I said, the record itself has all the information in it, and it's up to you of how you want to print it out, or maybe you can do it whatever you want with that. All right. I thought I had, oh, yes. Okay, so that is kind of what's the deal with logging in Dart and Flutter. And so this is how you would do it, right? Then you go to different parts of your app, and anytime there's something like parse story IDs, you would have a logger here. I'm gonna do it now. And then you would log all these things, and again in the main root level logger you would these events would bubble up and the log messages, and you can do whatever you want with the log messages. That's cool, but what if, and that was Michel's initial question, he actually had an answer, I think, but his point was, well, that's cool. If you have logging that's done well, that's great. But what if you use a package that doesn't do logging through a package logging or something similar, and instead just prints to the console, and you don't want to look at someone else's print logging things when you're debugging your own problems? And it kind of gets old pretty quickly when you're like starting your app and then you see all these logs from different packages and stuff like this. Fortunately, there's zones in Dart, and zones are, I don't think I have the fortitude and time to explain what zones really are. I guess I'll explain by actually working with something. Let's say there's a worker here. That might be too confusing with threads and all that. Prefs. Okay, let's say we have a new foo package, right? And this is something that, or maybe it's a plugin. Okay. And this is something that I'm gonna write foo, and it has one function, foo bar, and this function is synchronous actually, just to make it harder for ourselves. And it will just print stuff like bar was called, and then it waits for a random number of time, future, delayed, const, duration, milliseconds, 200. So it waits for 200 milliseconds, and then again it prints, just prints, no logging, just prints bar is continuing, right? And then it does something. So now I want to, like, this is obviously very, very cool package, and so I want to use it, and I want to use it in main before I even run our app, right? And I just say, okay, so var foo is foo, Yep. And then foo bar. And I don't even wait for it. I just do this. So now imagine this foo was coming from somewhere else. It's a plugin or package, and someone's not being really nice about printing their logging messages. So now if I restart, I have foo bar was called, bar is continuing. Not great, right? This is not what you want all around your logs. So what you can do is runZoned, which is basically saying this. I am gonna run you, that's for sure. If I do just this will do nothing to improve that problem, right? I will be running this, but I'm also giving you some specification and on error and stuff like this. This is, by the way, super useful when you have something like Sentry or anything that is trying to capture errors anywhere in your app. Instead of just like try catching your whole app, which is impossible, you can runZoned your whole app and add on error. And in that on error, you can be like, oh, this should probably go to Sentry or Crashlytics or whatever you're using. Or so often people will just not use any of these and just have a database where they put it. But we're not gonna do it now. We trust that foo is gonna work without errors. And instead we'll go with a zone specification. That's a zone specification. It's just an object. And that object has a bunch of different things that you can override and say. And what we want is the print handler. Print is, and now I need to check out what the print handler gets. Self, parent, delegate, line. Okay, so before I go, prevent it. Oh, you know what? Let's just first pass. Okay, so what's happening here is that we're saying you can run this, but wherever here, even asynchronously in this code, there's anything is printing, like using the print method, then I want to override it with this. So print will, and you get some additional context to every print message. So, the zone, the parent zone, then finally the line. So you can do whatever you want with any part of your app. You can wrap it in the zone and say, I want to do this with print messages. In this case, we're just gonna not do anything. And lo and behold, if we restart, you can see we did not see any of that. We don't have, what did it print? I forget. Bar was called is nowhere to be found, right? And the cool thing and the maybe surprising thing is this works even in asynchronous code. So, and this is obviously very easy to understand. This is just a future delayed. So it's just call this and then wait for a few milliseconds and call that. But imagine you have this huge plugin that does lots of asynchronous tasks, and you just put the beginning of the plugin or the initialization of that plugin, you put it in a new zone like this. In runZoned, you put the zone specification with a print that does whatever you want with its print stuff, and then you're golden. In our case, we would do something like this, right? Logger. Do we want to log in? We would probably do something like of our foo logger is logger foo package. And then in the print override, we could be foo logger info, let's say, and then the message, which is called line here, right? And now if we run this, we will get them back. So, oh, info from foo package at this time, bar was called, and so on and so forth. So you have a whole level of control over whatever is happening. And by the way, zone specification and zones generally are super powerful. You saw how many things there are here. This is just the print method, but you can see like so many things. Register callback. Anytime anyone in the zone registers a callback, you get notified, and you can do whatever you want with that. You can whenever something's scheduling a micro task, you get notified, and you can do whatever. Timers, you get notified, periodic timers, and if someone's forking that, which means they're creating a new zone, you also get notified. So super helpful stuff. If you get lots of annoying print statements in your log that you didn't ask about or of, you just use runZoned and you're there. And just so API, if you go to Darling, what's now the, sorry, I'm, Dart.dev, you can do runZoned, and you get a bunch of, some of the content on this page might be out of date. That's kind of sad. I wanted to see the API docs. Where's the API docs? Wow, that's not good. API.dev. Go to API.dev and search for runZoned, because that's definitely not out of date. It's in the Dart async library that is included with Dart, and it tells you all that you need to do. It tells you everything that you need to know about runZoned. It might be a little dense at first, but just like reading through the zone specification, all good. Cool. So this is logging. I guess I'm out of time, and this thing is still recording. So I'm very happy, and hopefully you were able to see all this throughout, and it wasn't super painful. Sometimes it was, I guess. I don't think I will actually. I don't know. Should I? In terms of the Hacker News app, I will probably remove obviously the foo package and stuff like this, but I will put it into the repo so that you can see how that might work. And maybe add a little more log messages, because the ones that I added are not that helpful. Others might. What I definitely like to do is add log messages to any user input. So in this case, that could be on generate route is a really cool place where you can add a log message where you're saying like, oh, the user went to this route. So that could get a log message. And then anytime there's any kind of on-pressed callback or any kind of user input callback, it's a really nice place to put a log message, so that when you read it later, you're like, oh, okay, so this is what was happening. This is especially true if you're actually sending those log messages to some kind of analytics package. All right. Well, I hope this was helpful, and thank you for watching, and see you next time. Hopefully in more than one person, but we'll see.